Recording in three, two, one, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sebcast. This is the third episode so far. And for today's guest, I have Sumanth Ravikumar. He is a close friend of mine, and we've been friends for almost a decade, but I'll let him introduce himself. You have the floor.
Hey guys, my name is Sumanth. I'm a software engineer that lives near Minneapolis, Minnesota. Like Seb said, we've known each other for almost a decade, maybe a decade now, 2020. It's getting real close to a decade. But yeah, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. Samantha.
By the way, I really like the name Sebcast.
Yes.
It's a classic name.
Yes, thank you. I think you and a couple others that voiced their opinions to me, which is why we ended up keeping this name. But yeah, so for today's episode, I don't really. The main topic that I wanted to talk to you about is finance, because I think both of us have a lot of financial goals that we both want to achieve, and there's been a lot of interesting things that have been happening this year, and we don't know. I personally don't know what I should be doing with my finances. Like, what should a 20-something-year-old be doing? What is the right thing, especially during a pandemic?
Right.
But so I guess maybe we could start with a history of finance. Like, how much did you know about finance? Like, how much of it did you had to learn on your own, or did your parents teach you anything? Like, did you have any history with having a good financial hygiene, I guess?
Yeah, so my dad did teach me a little bit about finance. Not too much. It was just the value of like saving money and not spending it as soon as you are able to spend it. So I think I got the idea. I think I've told you this before, but like when I was in high school and things, and I had a job and I wanted to buy something, like say like a PS3 or something, I would save up enough money to buy two of the PS3s, and then I would feel comfortable buying a PS3. And my dad was like the first person that kind of introduced that idea to me. So that was kind of like my early intro into finance. But I don't think I got too much into finance and saving money and all that stuff until I graduated college and I got my own place. I moved out. And then that's when I realized, like, okay, the value of money, how easily it can just go away, how easily you can just, earn it, and how easily you can just spend it like the day after. So that's kind of when I started getting more and more interested into finance, into like creating like a savings account, into saving every month, into like taking a portion of my paycheck out first before I do anything, like pay bills with it. So that's kind of how I slowly got into it. And I think you also had a pretty big impact on like me getting into finance. I was kind of like, lazily into finance. I would save a little bit here and there. But until I saw like, you were also saving, then I got more motivated. I was like, okay, I should probably save more money. I'm making a lot of money. I don't need to spend all of it. I can, lower my lifestyle and just save, and then just save up for, my future years.
Yeah, I definitely did pick that idea off from you. When your dad told me, or when your dad told me, your dad told you that
Mm-hmm.
if you want to buy something, save enough to buy it twice before you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think traditionally most people don't really think like that. They just, as soon as they have the money, that's what they're saving up. That was the goal that they set for themselves, and they'll go ahead and get it.
Right.
But yeah,
I
the
think
real value of saving is people don't take it as they don't. It's not taught.
Right. I think my dad had a different point of view on money because he was an immigrant. Like he was born and raised in India. He lived for the majority of his life in India, and then he moved over here. So he had like a completely different perspective on money and like luxury. So I think that's kind of like what taught him the lesson, basically. The importance of saving, and he wanted to like kind of pass that message along to me. And I'm also an immigrant, so I also saw a little bit of like the India lifestyle. So living in India, coming here, it kind of opened my eyes to like, well, I don't need to spend that much money because things are already way better than they were back in India. So I mean, I could just save and hold on for times like this, like a pandemic, or like when I actually need the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's yeah, both of our parents, well, you're also an immigrant, but yeah, both of our parents are immigrants, And it's quite interesting. I think with the ooh, traditionally speaking, I think for first generation Americans and immigrants that come over, is such a strong emphasis on saving and trying to start something, and in order to grow it out generationally, because both of us, I think, come from not a lot of money, and we're trying to, I guess, build something for the future generations, so they are in a better position than we were in. And with that, I guess, besides saving, that can only take you so far. What other, I guess, avenues of finance have you been trying to, or have you been diving into in order to do that? Are you like investing, or are you gambling? I hope not, but are you, are you, what, I guess, how are you trying to grow your wealth? It's very hard, especially coming from nothing. But have you come across anything that's kind of worked for you so far?
Yeah. So when I say save my money, I mostly mean that like I just take it out of my checking account, which I can spend on a day-to-day basis, and move it to like an investment account. So like investing in stocks, So I have a house. I bought a house. So I guess you could say that I invest in real estate, but I'm not. I only have one house. I'm not looking to buy a second house anytime soon. So it's a little bit of investing in real estate, but mostly in stocks. I did have a little bit of a foray into cryptocurrency. It didn't work out so well. Kind of wish I stayed in, but I didn't. Hindsight's 2020. But yeah, so it's mostly investing in stocks, investing in the 401k through my company as well. Getting those matches. So yeah, so saving money and also investing in stocks.
Yeah. So actually, we both went to cryptocurrency together, I think, back in like 2017, 2018. Yeah, like right when the hype was there, and Bitcoin was like all-time high at like 19,000, 18,000. Yeah. And we were like, oh God, this is the time. The future is today. But yeah.
I remember us buying all the little coins too, like Tron. I remember us doing so much research on like Justin Sun.
I don't think that any of us had like real investing experience before that time.
Nope.
And all of us lost money. Clearly, like we got our families involved. Like it was not good. Like we were, but I think there was potential there though, because I think, I've looking at Bitcoin specifically, like my dad was able to send like money to my cousin in Vietnam within minutes with like no fees, or like very little, like a couple dollars maybe. And I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like, how come we can't do this already with like banks? Like now if we go to another country, we have to pull money out of it, maybe of an ATM, or we have to do like a wire transfer, but that'll take like 3 days, The value of like Bitcoin is there, and the intrinsic value of it, I think, is still kind of undervalued. And recently, I'm not sure if you've caught up with the new, like with recent news of it, but it just recently spiked up to 23,000.
Right, it hit its all-time high now, right?
Yeah, second all-time high, or not. Now it's the new all-time high. And something that has been I've been really considering, and I've been actually like I've been wanting to talk to you about, is like, what do you think about converting your savings account into like Bitcoin and holding it as Bitcoin instead?
So you're talking about like your emergency fund and saving that account into.
Yeah. So yeah, this is something I'm actually considering right now. I've already kind of like doubled my doubled how much I was holding in Bitcoin already. I put in another 1,000, and I'm probably going to be starting to like convert slowly whatever's in my emergency fund into Bitcoin.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about that is I don't know, I would have to check like how liquid it is. Like if I needed money tomorrow, can I get it out and convert it into like, dollars into my bank account so I can like, pull it out in cash or something. That's the only thing I would be worried about. It is a savings account and not a checkings account. So as long as you have like, enough money in the checkings account, I think you'll be fine. But also it's like anything. Like, I mean, we saw the high at 19K, and then we also saw the low at like 5K. Yeah. So there's a risk, but there's also upside.
Yeah, I think if you're long Bitcoin, like if you're going to like go for a long term play, like you would with you know, other stocks that you're confident in, or that you've done significant research on, I think Bitcoin is still like severely undervalued, in terms of how much potential it has. I mean, there are people who are shilling. We all know the shillers of Bitcoin, and they're saying like Bitcoin will be like $500,000 a coin. You know what I mean? That's like what 20x than where it is now.
Yeah.
But I think Bitcoin is probably the one that's furthest along because it has like the most like financial institutional like exception. Like the Fed is aware and they're trying to integrate it in. We have Coinbase, we have PayPal and Cash App, Square, all those, all these ways to buy Bitcoin, and Robinhood too. You don't want to actually own your own Bitcoin on Robinhood, but that's a different topic. But I think as far as liquidity goes, you could just sell your Bitcoin anytime and convert it back over to cash. But I think as a store of value, with the Fed printing as much money as they are now and interest rates probably not rising for the next few years, I do think that like holding my money in Bitcoin might be the way to go, which is why I'm like slowly converting. I'm not going to just dump it all in and all at once, but it's going to be like a slow transition over the next 6 months. Because I think I have some other things, but I also want to preface before we get any further. Neither of us are financial advisors. We're just two dudes, two buddies chatting about money, trying to make it big. But anyways,
we should have definitely said that like first thing in the video.
I probably should have, but it's okay. It's better late than never. So I think Bitcoin is really piqued my interest again, and I think it might be worth taking a deep dive. I've been reading some white papers from ARK Invest about how what their potential, what they think on Bitcoin, and it does seem quite promising. It's like people are saying digital gold 2.0. With recessions. Have you heard of? Do you know who Microsystems is?
Microsystems? No, I don't.
Okay, I didn't know who they were either prior to their involvement with Bitcoin, but they're a global tech enterprise company where they kind of they're mostly in information, but they've been having all this excessive revenue within their company, and they actually recently converted all of their cash, like money that they would have either held in like treasuries or stocks, into Bitcoin. It wasn't easy. They had to convince their board, and they had to buy out shareholders that didn't agree, but they converted, I think, a few $100 million into Bitcoin.
Jeez. Okay.
And that's how they're holding their cash, right?
Damn. Okay. So that could easily triple or quadruple, or it could easily half, or get to a third of what it was.
Yes.
That's a big risk.
Fortunately for them, it worked out, and they actually ended up getting more money, and they started to I think take on some debt even to buy Bitcoin. And now they're up. They've invested over $500 million into of their liquid cash into Bitcoin because they don't know how else to store their money, Sumanth. And
that's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could ever do that much money with something. I don't know. See, for me, it seems like Bitcoin just seems a little bit more riskier than traditional stocks or ETF funds or anything. But it's also the potential upside is really appealing. It is super appealing.
Yeah.
But I can't bring myself to if I had $1 billion, I cannot put half of my money into Bitcoin. Yeah. I could not put half of my money right now into Bitcoin. I don't feel safe. I don't feel right.
It isn't safe, which is maybe a dollar cost average would be a better strategy. But think about it though, right? So if this company put in 500 mil as a store of cash, to store their store of value, it's like they're the first ones to publicly openly go ham. I think it'll open doors for other companies to consider it, because I know other companies are also looking at it saying the Fed just at a push of a button just print out 20% of the whole entire global currency this year. In 2020, they've pretty much inflated the currency. Actually, I think they inflated the currency by 20%. All of the world's global currency, or because of the stimulus of just not only the U.S. and other countries as well, fiat currency it seems to be it's not it's starting to seem a little unstable to me, or unstable, and in order for me to beat inflation, I feel like I need to hedge my bets, like by putting it into Bitcoin or stocks. Because otherwise, if I just have a whole bunch of money sitting in the savings account, I'm going to get like 0.75% interest on it every year, and it's not going to beat inflation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that point. That's why I don't really have a savings account. I have a checkings account, and that has enough money for like, emergency. Yeah. But everything after that is just invested. I don't like the idea of just traditional savings account from like a bank or anything.
Yeah. So then I guess for everybody, their emergency fund is different, but how much of that of your portfolio would you say is that liquid cash, like that is just sitting in your checking account? Would you say? You don't need to have the exact number, but
you mean percentage wise or like dollar wise? Which one? Percentage wise, I would say it's I have enough money for like if I lost my job today, I would have enough money to cover for like 6 months worth of expenses, including like mortgage, grocery, all the like the responsibilities, the bills that I have to pay. So I have 6 months. I have enough money to cover 6 months of that, and I try to keep it at that. I try not to go more than 6 months because I just feel like realistically, if I lost my job, I should be able to find something in 6 months, or else, I'm doing something wrong. So I pretty much leave it at that, and then anything after that, I just invest. So I would say it's like 10% probably is in my checkings account, my emergency 10%. Fund. Yeah, 10% of my like total portfolio, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking about like my own, and that's why I wanted to like move a lot of my money all of a sudden, because I'm looking at like amount of money invested, liquid cash. I'm sitting at like maybe like 25-30%, like 28% almost. And I'm like, this is too much cash. Like I don't know.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it really depends. 6
months though. Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends like how much money you have total portfolio wise. I don't think a percentage wise is a good like number to put on this, because the percentage is just going to get lower and lower as you invest more and more,
Right. That's very true.
So I think it's better to have like a 6 month period, or like a 4 month period, or like a year period if you want to.
Yeah. Then again, I feel like, live fast, die young. I don't need an emergency fund.
Yeah, you're right. Just put it go all in, dude. 1% into your checking.
Yeah, how many times has it saved your ass though? Have you like had to use your emergency funds?
Not to that extent. I had never had to blow through all of my emergency fund. I own a house, so like when things break, I have to pay, obviously. I have to pay to get it fixed. So like last year, my heater broke in the middle of winter. I was like, well, shit, I got to get this fixed, and it was like $2,000 or something. So it's like, yeah, it chips away at the emergency fund, but I've never had to like use the entirety of my emergency fund on anything. So I guess I'm pretty lucky in that sense, and I hope I never have to do that. But I think I have enough money where if I did have to, I think I'll still be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Like in my checkings account.
Okay. So, yeah, it does come in handy. And now I'm starting to rethink things.
Well, yeah, it really depends. Like, if you're not a homeowner and, like, you're renting something, if something breaks at your house, like, you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
So you have the luxury of that. But also, it's like, my family's been having medical issues, and I wanted to help pay for them. So I can, take money out of my checkings account to pay for that. And medical issues aren't something that you, like, really plan for. They kind of just happen.
Right.
And since I have it in my checkings account, I can readily help them out.
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm really liking this idea of like just going all in on Bitcoin again, just to see where it goes. But I know that like nothing's gonna happen in the short term. Maybe in like 5 years. I think market cap right now is at like 400 billion, but in like 5 years it might be 3 trillion.
So are you focused on the short term, mid term, or long term? What are you focused on?
Definitely long term, which is why I'm slowly buying back in over time.
Well, in that case, I don't think it really matters. Like if you have an extra like $3,000 in your checking account, long term doesn't mean much. Like
Yes.
you have that safety, you have that peace of mind in your checkings account. But like if you were to invest it in Bitcoin, yeah, it could like, 3 times, 4 times, but what is that, like 10K, 12K? Long
Right.
term, 12K is not gonna mean much
Yeah, it's not a
in the
game
grand
changing
scheme of
amount of
things.
money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so then, with all this money, I mean, what do you plan to do with it? Like, do you
I
have
don't
a,
know.
once we're all sitting there, in our complete solid gold chair, solid gold toilets, smoking our, our cigars, like, what else do you plan to do? Do you have plans? Like, what are your financial goals besides just having a lot of it?
I don't know. That's a good question. And I was asking myself that question, like, just recently. I really don't have an idea what I want to spend my money on. Obviously, I want to get, like, there are things that I want to buy. Like, I really want to buy a Tesla, like
Mm-hmm.
just a Tesla, and keep that as my main car. Um, but that's pretty much it for like other goals that I want to get. I don't really have like the dreams of like living in a mansion in Beverly Hills or like a super big house or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
really care about that. So if I do, like, if I when I am sitting on my solid gold plated toilet seat, like you said, I don't know what I would use it on. I'd probably just keep it in like investments,
Yeah.
just invest more, I guess. I mean, I would have enough money to like take care of my immediate family and friends, like just in case they need something, an emergency happens. I want to be able to cover for them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much it. I don't really have any like huge dreams or aspirations to use it on. How about you? Do you have
Uh,
anything like that?
yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit too, because I, I think everybody is working hard. They're trying to look for a new job now, or work for, or try to get promoted at their current job, make more money, save more.
Mm-hmm.
But what's it all for, really? I've been thinking about it, and you know, first, I think I want to try. What a goal that I want to try to reach is to retire early. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, like my parents working, until they're 60, 70, maybe even. Probably not. I hope my parents don't work until they're 70, but I like, just to get into that old age. Not that 60 or 70 is old. I'm sure there's still plenty of life ahead of them if they want to do other stuff. But, I want to start sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if if we plan to, if we plan to to have a family and stuff, I don't want to be working while raising children.
Mm-hmm.
That's why personally what I think about it, because I think, especially in child development, I think the early few years, at least the way how my dad tells me about it, is like the formative years are those first 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then the childhood after the years after that, up until like prepubescence, like up until puberty, are probably going to be the most impactful for them. And I think I want to be there as much as possible, similar to one of our
Mm-hmm.
friends, Tinsai. Actually, you know what I mean. I think he was the first like working model that I've seen actually happen. He's a stay-at-home dad currently, with his kid, but he's been able to reach a level of financial freedom where he's able to do that, and that really excites me. And I think that's what I personally want as well. But
So
beyond,
if
yeah,
So if you were to have a kid, in the future, would you want to like, leave your job and like help raise your kid for like, the first 3 years, like completely at home, or like
Y-
what were you thinking?
yeah. So I think, watching how Tinsai's been doing it, I think that I want to still be able to have something I'm working on, whether it pays or not. Just to
Right.
keep me sane and to keep me busy. Um, but besides that, I don't know if I will want to be working. I definitely would probably want to step away from work if I have the choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have my own projects or have my own things that I'm working on, but out like 40-hour work week, I want to avoid it if possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I have been thinking of things like that. I mean, Tensai was also my role model and like,
Yeah.
my inspiration for thinking like that.
Hmm.
I've also been thinking like it would be really nice if I saved up enough money and like, through dividend investments or whatever, and like just get like a regular living wage just through my investments and through like dividends. Then it feels like, yeah, I can work less, or like my significant other can work less, or we could both like, quit our job or something. And we don't have to be worried about money because we have a steady stream of like, cash coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would eventually like to get to that point. I think that would be like my first goal. Just because I don't see kids in the near future for me, and that's the goal that I want to focus on. It's just to like get enough money invested where I can live off of like, dividend incomes, or like I can pay my house off of dividend incomes. And if it feels like, man, I really hate working, or I really hate this job, I can leave. Like I don't really have to think twice about like, oh, but I need this money to come in to pay my
Mm-hmm.
mortgage. No, I
Mm-hmm.
can just leave, and I could find something else, or I could find some other form of like, work. Maybe I don't want to be a software engineer in the future. So I want to be able to have that much money coming in, where it kind of like opens up my opportunities, like, opens a lot of doors for me.
Yeah. Yeah, just to have the independence, to have choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the main biggest driver. And beyond that, I mean, I think maybe if I have a lot, like maybe the time that I spend working on other stuff, things I'm passionate about, maybe it'll be like, philanthropical, like to help out other people. Now that I'm in a position where I can help, once I've helped myself, I can help other people. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
at least that's the philosophy I'm taking at it, similar to how you're on like a plane, strap the oxygen mask on yourself and then help others. Otherwise, you're going to pass out trying to help somebody else. You know?
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah. But so you mentioned dividend investing. So is that how is that like the majority of your portfolio is in dividend stocks or ETFs or what?
Not right now. I'm in the process of like moving it over into that. So right now it's just like individual. So I'm in the tech sector. I work in the tech sector. I'm a software engineer. So I can read a lot of like, paper or like white papers on companies, and like kind of see if like, okay, this is promising, or maybe this is not so promising. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I'm just kind of investing in more of the tech sector and not more of dividend investing. But like as I get more and more money into it, I'm kind of realizing like, maybe it's better for me to like, not just go 100% into tech, and like, kind of diversify. Maybe I do want to start like dividend investing.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly moving it over from 100% tech into like, maybe 50% tech and like 50% something else.
Interesting. I'm the complete opposite. I made the switch from like, going from ETFs and like dividends and dividend stocks all over to like disruptive innovation. Like that's is I because I think we're, at that age, we're in our 20s, like we can go long on a stock and be fine. I think people for those that need stability and they cannot, or don't want to take risk, an ETF is fine. Especially people who are older than us that need stability in order because they depend on that income. But for us, if we want explosive growth, I think disruptive innovation is going to be the way to make money. Mostly going to be in tech. Companies like if you look at the S&P 500, right? How many people? How many of those companies do you think like have plans to work with AI in the future?
Probably, I don't know.
Outside of
I
Faye.
need to look at the list. I
Yeah.
need to look at a lot of the companies, but speaking from like, a tech point of view, there are a lot of companies like that are opening up to AI, but not a lot of them are like, are utilizing AI as fully as they could. It's kind
Yeah.
of just like, a little bit of data mining and like predicting like, okay, this person's likely to buy this, let's
Mm-hmm.
send them ads for this. But that's kind of the extent as to like, where AI is going with the majority of companies. But like
Mm-hmm.
like other companies like, Tesla, which is going to be into the S&P 500 soon, like they are going, they're jumping off into the deep end when it comes to
Yes.
like AI and things like that. So yeah, that, I could see that, if it catches on, it's gonna grow exponentially. But yeah, I can see what you're saying with like disruptive technologies.
Yeah, I'm looking at specifically like companies that are really into like 3D printing because I've watched a house get 3D printed and other parts that would be make so much more sense than transporting like a whole bunch of built stuff already instead of just sending the machine over and having the machine build most of your stuff for you, or like companies like Tesla or Square or all the stuff that is just going to change the world or the way at least the way we know it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those have like the biggest growth potential. Um, and even like I think Shopify even. I think they integrated. Did they integrate with TikTok? Because I know in China that when they use their version of TikTok, I think they call it Douyin. When you scroll, they actually do have a section like on the screen, like where people are scrolling, where you could just directly buy there,
Mm-hmm.
and it just takes you to the product page. We don't have that yet, but I think that's what the future will look like. And with companies making deals like this, all the companies that are tech based, that are going to be changing the way we buy things, the way we consume things, the way we use things like cars, like Tesla. Those companies are the ones that we should be investing in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think we have like, though we both like investing, I think we have two very different investing styles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think like there's a right or a wrong investing style. I think it's just whatever you're comfortable with.
Right.
But just from like, our conversation so far, it feels like you are more into like the more riskier investment. I'm not saying that you're like, our Wall Street bets or anything, but I do feel like you're a little bit more riskier, or like you're trying to get a little bit more of the explosive growth. Whereas I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with the growth I'm getting right now. I just want to keep it going. I don't really care if it's explosive, but I don't want it to go negative.
Right.
I just want to keep like a stable growth for like a lot of years.
Yeah, the
in a row.
trajectory is definitely, I would say, more important as well. But
and
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think I'm easily influenced. So I've been talking to a lot of people and my coworkers and like my parents, my my relatives. They're all telling me like diversify your portfolio. Better be safe than sorry, because like a couple of people I've talked to, like they're in the same position that I am, or they were in the same position that I am, and they like went all in and they lost. A couple of them lost, a couple of them like succeeded, and like I'm seeing like the two sides. I'm like, man, I really don't want to lose. I really want to win, but I really really don't want to lose all that money. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'll just keep a safer approach. That's the approach that I adopted. That's just
yes.
I think I was easily influenced by like other people around me. So that's what I like.
Yeah. I think risk tolerances does have something to do with it, of course. But I guess the point I was making then, at our age, in our 20s, we can take more risks
Mm-hmm.
than someone who is in their 30s or 40s or 50s or has a family. You know what I mean? Financially, we could take a risk. We could stand to lose something, and then if we lose it, that's fine. We can always come back from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think but like you said though, I think trajectory is definitely more important. But as far as diversifying goes, my views on that has changed recently. I think they always say don't put all your eggs into one basket, but I'm like, I don't have a lot of eggs. Okay, you know what I mean? I think it's better if I just put it in one basket, and maybe I'll get more eggs home that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
Like,
Yeah, I'm also kind of against that, like, diversify. So, like, saying that, I'm slowly, like, transforming my portfolio. Like, I remember us talking, like, a couple weeks ago, and you asked me, like, how many stocks I had. I said I had 20. And then I thought about it. It's like, 20 is a lot of stocks,
that is a lot.
I mean, like, yeah, I'm safe, like, no one stock is going to bring my portfolio down. But realistically, no one stock is going to bring my portfolio up either. So It's like, I have to like kind of move away from like 20 to maybe like I think a good starting point would be like 10. Just like half it and just like focus on 10 for now, and then just kind of like try to maximize that. That's what I'm in the process of doing right now. So I lowered it from like 20 to like 16. So I still need to get rid of like 6 more stocks. So I'm trying to like figure all that stuff out.
That's hard.
But yeah,
That's
I definitely
really
don't agree. I definitely don't agree with like diversify as much as possible. I don't think. Like especially in our stage, in our early age, like you're saying, and like we don't really have that many eggs to buy, or like that much money to buy that many eggs,
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to like put a little bit of it in a lot of different when you could just focus on like a few of them,
right? And
several of them.
That's generally my opinion with S&Ps or not S&P, not but like ETFs, in general. Generally speaking, because when you buy an ETF, it's a sliver of a whole entire, of a select portfolio of, maybe like the S&P 500 or the, like the Dow Jones, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
or and yeah, like you're buying a fraction of a small share of a company that you have no idea about. You know what I mean? Like chances of you doing research for all the companies inside of an index fund, highly unlikely, right? That's because that's the no brain strategy. But I'm trying to big brain it.
So how many years have you been investing for?
I would say since
Would you say
2017,
roughly?
since the peak of crypto.
2017. All
That's
right. If you were to go back to 2017, with the knowledge you have now, how would you start differently, or how would you invest differently? Are there things that you wouldn't do?
Yeah, definitely. I think greed, because I entered cryptocurrency or investing as like a gambling scheme, right? But you know what I mean? Like I was trying to get in and get out with as much money as possible. And you and I, we've been gambling together. We've never really made it out big. We've always like lost somebody. Most of us. It's usually 5 people go in, 1 person comes out positive.
Yeah. And that 1 person ends up buying dinner for the other 4 that lost money.
Yes, and we never win. And it's and I unfortunately I went into investing with that kind of mentality, and I'm like, if I put in $1,000, maybe I can come out with $3,000. But there was no game plan after that. I never really considered to look at investing and going on into like investing long term. It was always like, how can I make more money in order to accomplish what my immediate goals are? And I think, with investing, even if I were to go positive and, achieve my short-term goals, I would not know what to do next. And that ultimately was the problem. I need to figure out where to take it from there. And now that I have a stronger conviction, especially with what I'm invested in now, and I'm doing and I'm continuing to do the research and have already done a lot of the research on the options or the investing choices I've made, which I'll also disclose here in a little bit. On the investing choices that I've made, like my conviction is stronger than ever, and I think that now that I have this conviction, I'm not concerned if the price dips. Right, I'm not going to be caught up in FOMO or and like sell early or like but yeah, I think with in 2017 is where it started. If I were to go back, actually I don't think I would change anything. I learned a lot. Yeah, I learned a lot. I didn't lose that much to I didn't pay any for an expensive lesson. It was expensive, but it wasn't like really expensive.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think the timing was good. If I could have been a little earlier, but I would have to be a time.
I mean, that's for everything.
Yeah.
It's
like
if only I invested in Bitcoin when it was like $1.
We had a chance. I hope you remember. We had a chance, and it was Tinsai who brought it up to us. He said,
was Tinsai.
Bitcoin's $700, guys. I'm like, bro, I don't have
$700.
Oh, but I wish we did, because if we did now, how long ago was that anyway? Do you remember?
That was like when we were still in school, like
2012?
Somewhere around there, yeah. Because that's when I graduated high school, and I think it was around that time.
If we invested $5,000 into Tesla during its IPO, we would have been millionaires. By now.
It's always the hindsight, dude. Always the hindsight. We just gotta wait for the next big thing.
We knew about it too, like in 2014 when it was kind of rocky. But I think it's hard because I think we're all sheep.
Oh, definitely. I get influenced super easily, so I'm definitely a sheep. I know that.
I think that's just, and then it's not a fault of our own. I think it's just how we as humans communicate. Like we get information from other humans. You know what I mean? It's very rare. Or not very rare. Unfortunately, it's rare that people, they think for themselves and they go do their own research and make their own, decisions based on their own thinking, right? Whereas everybody else, we like to kind of go with like the herd mentality and like go with, where the herd is, because that's how we've been taught to survive, genetically speaking.
Well, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I would change if I were to go back in my investing career
Mm-hmm.
is to like, I would say mine probably started around 2017, maybe a little bit earlier, but like it was basically the Bitcoin hype that got me into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the herd mentality that got me into it. And I wish I actually did more of the research that I do now back then and to like see, okay, these are some potentially, good cryptocurrencies that I should hold and not just jumps all into Tron just because it sounds cool and Justin Sun sounds like a cool name and because everybody else was getting Tron. Not because of that, but like because I actually believed in it.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I would definitely change if I were to go back.
Does Tinsai still hold his 30,000 Tron?
I don't know. I wonder if he's positive now. I'm not sure.
No idea.
If he did, hold on though. That's props to him. Props to Tinsai.
And I think if for a seasoned investor, if they saw what was actually happening with like Tron and Justin Sun, they would have caught it right away. Like this is red flags everywhere. Like it's the scamas, and we ended up getting scamas. Like people who got in early might have made it out with some money, but doing the proper research, is something that we never considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something I would definitely change.
Yeah. But besides that, all my investing choices, I think everything had to have happened in order for me to get to where I am now. And to disclose what my portfolio is, I'm like, as far as its stocks go, it's 100%. I'm 100% invested into stocks. I mean, 100% invested into Tesla.
Into
actually,
one stock.
Maybe 90% into Tesla, 10% into crypto. As far as anything that's not cash goes.
So what do you say, or what do you think about Tesla joining the S&P? Because it's supposed to happen next week, right? Monday?
Yeah. So.
Or did it happen on Friday already?
I'm interested to see what happens on Monday. So, with the S&P 500, all the funds that are tracking Tesla, they had to buy in at the last 5 minutes of market close. So whatever the price was at, during those last 5 minutes is what the stocks are going to be entering in the S&P 5. The funds that are tracking the S&P 500 are going to have to buy at. So it's at 695, and they had to buy like 100 million shares at 695.
Jeez. So theoretically, it should go up.
Yes, and I think a lot of because I think Tesla and just in this year alone, everybody now knows who Tesla is, and obviously they are like the best EV. But I think beyond that, people they're a lot of people are like calculating in. We don't know how much of their future revenues into the current pricing for this stock. In the short term might seem overvalued, but in the long term, I still think it's undervalued. If you look at ARK Invest's paper, well, anyways, let's just stick to the S&P. I think the prices will go up still, but there's definitely a lot of people who are front running it. I'm sure hedge funds bought up a whole bunch of Tesla stock, and that's why it got to where it is now, because they're going to sell it over to the tracking funds come Monday. But who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. It could break $700. It could fall below 500. I'm buying more. I'm always still going to be buying more.
You know what's helped me out a lot? Switching over to M1 Finance and just being restricted. I'm like, you only have 1, maybe 2 trading periods per day. That helps out a lot for me, because I was the type of person that would be at work checking my portfolio, like, oh crap, it's dropping, I should sell now. And I would make these last minute rash decisions, just spur of the moment, and they always come to bite me in the end. They always come to bite my ass in the end. So I think being limited to 1 trading session a day really helps me out.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I do definitely feel that way. I've canceled so many trades because I've oh no, I've heard this really bad news and I need to make a sell. But then I can't do it until the next day, so then I have time to reflect and think about it. Yeah, so it stopped me a lot. M1 is not sponsored, but it's a really nice app. I like it over Robinhood, and it does seem better for our risk tolerances.
Yeah, if you're a day trader, definitely not, M1. But like if you're in it for like the mid to long term and you just want to be a little hands off, I think M1 was the best place.
Yeah. Do you set up do you like set up like reoccurring buys for like, to move your money in there?
I did, yes. So like my family's going through like some medical, treatments. So I stopped that recently. But
Mm-hmm.
typically I would have like recurring payments, like, recurring money that gets moved from my checking account into the investment account like every week or like every
Okay.
other week or so.
I did start
Yeah.
doing that until just recently. I was like,
I'll be
but
honest, that's
mhm.
the main reason why my portfolio's gone up. Like it's not the huge amount of gains that I've had this year. It's just like the recurring payments, like week after week. It's just getting moved from here to here, and that adds up after a long time.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see your like portfolio go up a lot, and you're gonna see like, wait, the stock market's not going up though, but it's gonna be because of the recurring payments.
Right. Okay.
And I think
Interesting.
that's one of the biggest thing is just like I do that recurring payment like first thing before I pay any of my mortgage or like my bills. So it's like I do the recurring payment, then I pay my bills, and then whatever money I have left over, I'll try to move like the majority of that into the investment account as well.
Yeah.
And then like if I have any left over, then I can like use it as spending money.
Right. So, how much money do you think you actually spend, like for leisure or for fun or on yourself? That's not everything you should be doing.
It depends. It's in one way I'm spending more money during the pandemic, in another way I'm not. Like I'm not going out to eat or like, going out to see like or like going out and then just spending money. That's
Mm-hmm.
not really happening with the quarantine going on. But at the same time, I'm just so bored at home that I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm just signing up for like a lot of stuff. Like I just buy games just for the sake of buying it. Like I bought Cyberpunk. I played like 15 minutes of it, but I spent $60 on it. So
Yes.
it's things like that where I'm just like, spending money where I shouldn't be, but it's like I don't have anything else to do in quarantine.
Yeah. It's just a shift. I mean, think about it this way: Cyberpunk is like 3 meals on average. You know, you
True.
just yeah, and you, I don't think you don't seem like the type of person to go out to eat that often either. So
Yeah, no, I try to cook most of my meals.
yeah, so I think living frugal is like kind of already built into us based on how we were raised. Um,
That's true.
yeah, so I think it's okay to splurge, but the reason I asked was like, you know, since we're both so like heavy into building out our portfolios and being smart financially, like do you think it takes away from like overall happiness or like enjoyment of life? Because I think there is like a fine line between where you're depriving of yourself, like, oh, I need to cook,
Mhm.
I can't go out to eat, or I think that's pretty extreme, but like but I think there are some times like right now I there are things that a lot of wants that I do have, but I'm always trying to fight the urge or resist buying things that I don't necessarily need, because
Mhm.
yeah, I for every one want that I have, I can think of three reasons why I don't need it, and I always have to bring myself there in order to stop myself from like spending money, but I don't
Right.
know if that's a bad thing.
That's kind of something I've learned to deal with lately. It's just like if there's something that I want, like I want to get right away, like today. Like if there's
Mm-hmm.
something on Amazon that catches my eye that I really want, I won't buy it right away. I'll wait for a couple days, and if I want it again in a couple days, then it's like, okay, this is two times, that I've really wanted this, and like I've slept on it. It went away for a little bit, but I want it again. So it's more of like not a spur of the moment. It's like something that I've really thought about. So then I wouldn't feel bad getting it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like trying to set these kind of rules to myself because I know what you mean. It's like, yeah, I could go eat out or I could make this meal at home, but I really want to eat out. But the right choice is to save money and eat, and make a meal at home. But then it does feel like if you do that over and over again, it does feel like you're depriving yourself of like
Yeah.
just life in particular.
Right.
But so it's like something that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah. Uh, so the right choice, you just said the right choice is to cook. I think it depends on the circumstance, like or what the context is. The right choice should be your happiness. or
Mm-hmm.
like, your enjoyment. I think, overall, or maybe that's too hedonistic, but, I think that should be the right answer is, what makes you happy. If being financially safe, and sound is what makes you happy, then yes, I think cooking is the right choice. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's like an opportunity to bond with coworkers or hang out with friends, then, I think then eating out would be the right choice.
Oh
But
yeah. So if it comes down to like other people, it's a easier choice for me. It's like,
yeah.
well, it's an experience that I'm gonna have with other people, so I think it's worth, spending the money.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just like, I'm hungry and I want to eat now, and like I could go get Taco Bell, or I could make a sandwich at home. It's like, it's just myself. It
Yeah.
doesn't really make a big deal. I'd
Right.
stay at home at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Context is very key.
But I also think it is worthwhile to splurge on yourself now and then. Like, you obviously don't want to go too ham with it, but you obviously don't want to like, restrict yourself to him or too much either.
Yeah.
So it's like if you do it like, once a week, maybe once every other week, I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not the type of like I know there are people that are like, don't spend money eating out at all. Put that all towards your savings. I'm like, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, you'll save up more money faster, but like maybe your life won't be as fun, or like, maybe you're gonna, enjoy your life less because you're restricting yourself so much.
Yeah. Man, I do miss eating out though. Like
Have you not been
eating,
eating out lately?
like we've gotten takeout, but I don't
Yeah.
know. That's not the same, man. It's just it's
Hmm.
not the same.
I
Like
mean, the pandemic is kind of messing with everybody's head. Like,
yeah,
I'm
I
pretty
didn't.
sure, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure, like, even the people that like to stay at home most of the time, even it's starting to mess with their heads.
Yes, this is the upper limit. We've been inside for almost in 2 weeks, like a full year. Like most of us. I
Hmm.
think some people may have caught the coronavirus earlier, or like the wind of the news earlier, and then they were quarantining already since then, or wearing masks. Because I think there was a point when, like in February, if you had a mask on, people would look at you weird. You know what I mean?
Now it's the norm.
It is the norm, but man, I don't know. What else you've been doing besides gaming to keep yourself busy? I mean, gym's opened up
Um,
today. You just mentioned earlier,
yeah.
but before we started this podcast, so.
Yep. So I got really into like, personal health and fitness this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to like, just keep myself either working out at home or like working out at gym. I really prefer the gym. I really like weightlifting more than like body weight, like push-ups, pull-ups,
Mm-hmm.
exercises like that. So I am a little bit excited that the gyms are opening back, but it's also like I visit my parents often. So and they're more high risk of COVID. So it's like I do have to be safe when I go. So like the rules before were like, you have to wear a mask when you're moving from like, like a squat rack to a squat rack or like to a machine. But like once you're actually working out, you can take off your mask. And I never felt comfortable doing that. So I would just work out with like my mask on the entire time, which, is hard, but I just feel better like knowing that I'm like taking an extra step of precaution.
Do you think
So I
everybody should
think
work out with their mask on?
I think so, but it is really hard. Like it's like if you're squatting and you have like, like 150 or 200 pounds on your back and you have a mask that like, like as much as people say it doesn't like, affect your breathing, it really does. Like especially when you have 200 pounds on your back and you're trying to like lift it,
Yeah.
you get really lightheaded and you could pass out really easily if you don't get enough oxygen.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
So because of that, you have to go a little bit lighter and you can't push yourself as much as you used to be able to. But
Yeah.
it's a trade off, It's like I'm still able to work out at least, so it's not as bad.
Huh. Yeah. I didn't really think about it that way. Well, I considered, if you have like a couple 100 pounds on your back and you're squatting and then suddenly you breathe through your mouth and it just like blocks your like your air passageway, like then you're done. Like, you know what I mean? The weights come down, like you're done.
Right. It is dangerous. Like if you don't get enough oxygen and you pass out, yeah, you're screwed. You are
Yeah.
screwed.
But I think if people are willing to, make the sacrifice of, not going as hard, but still having the ability to go work out, that would be a really easy compromise. I think it should be a really easy compromise, unless you're one of those like one rep maxers, in the gym. But But yeah, I didn't think about that. Do you have you well when it was open before? Were you able to notice anybody else doing similar stuff like that where they're not pushing
Yeah.
themselves all the way and they're keeping their mask on?
Yep,
At
I would
least in
say
Minnesota.
90% of the people, 90% of the people actually took their masks off and like, just worked out like normal. But there were a few people that like, kept their masks on the entire time, and you could tell that they're not like, going like, 100% of like what they had just because they had the masks on. So there are a few people that do that, but the majority of people do not do that.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I think it'll be interesting because I think now with the new quarantine rules, I think it is enforced that you have to have your mask on the entire time you're at the
Oh,
gym.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think so. So I have to see like either today or tomorrow when I actually go. But
Hmm.
that's what the governor said, like masks on at all times. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, other than that, just been visiting my parents a lot, just because like you're limited to like the amount of people you could see. So I've been going over to my parents like almost every week. Other than that, when it was nicer out, the weather was nicer out, I would usually go on a walk or a hike or like do something outdoors, because it's a little bit safer. Yeah, so I'm just trying to do things that like, that take my mind off of like, just being stuck indoors at all times.
Yeah.
How about you? Like you're in Seattle now. How's it different there compared to like
Yes.
Minnesota?
It's as far as outside goes. I think in the it's people are generally wearing their masks, everywhere they go. No, it's very very rare. I think where you go and see someone where they aren't wearing a mask.
Mhm.
But everything feels like it's starting to become a little ghost towny. I think. Then again, this is coming from someone who like leaves their house or or my apartment like once a week
Mhm.
to get groceries, and I order half of my groceries already.
You
So
have the Amazon delivery for grocery too, right? The Whole Foods delivery.
no, I don't actually. They have an Asian grocer, um, delivery service. Which is something I actually did not think about like before. Like anytime I wanted something from like an Asian the grocery store, I had to physically go and get it. There was no way to order it. Maybe sometimes Amazon had it, but the selection wasn't big. But something I
Mhm.
haven't thought about was I've been looking for Indian spices, man, and I can't find. I don't know where the stores are here, and I don't know where to
Mhm.
go. And like they don't have it in the Asian store. I mean, like they have like one or two things, like
Mhm.
mustard seeds and stuff, but like not everything, not the expansive wall of spices that I've seen. Um,
Mhm.
but the Asian grocery delivery service that I use is really nice. I do like it. The aesthetically speaking, they have some things that they can improve on, but as far as the service goes, it's a great service. However, why don't we have that for more types of foods? I think there's some Asian groceries that are like being left out on, but primarily like I think Indian groceries,
Mhm.
some Southeast Asian groceries. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's missed out on, and I think there's an opportunity there. Anywho,
There is an opportunity there. Never underestimate people's laziness, dude. They will
yes,
spend money just to be lazy.
yes, 100%. So, uh, I don't think I will get into the grocery business anytime soon, but it's just very interesting, like to find that. I think we also delivers in Minnesota as well. Um,
What's it called? We?
yeah, it's like WH and then followed by three E's.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but beyond that, yeah, nothing. I don't leave the house often, man. So there's nothing like this podcast is actually like the product of the quarantine.
Oh,
um,
really?
yeah, mostly because I'm just bored out of my mind, and I think this is nice because then we get to have like a whole 1 hour session where we're just talking to each other. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to do that with our other friends and peers, but besides that, just trying to take advantage of the fact that we all have to be at home, and in order to I guess make content this way, and I am something that really excites me about making content is that in 5 years, Samantha, when we look back at this 1 hour video clip, we can see how we think, you know what I mean, at this time. Because I think when we have like long form pieces like this where we're both talking for a long time, we can kind of remember back to the mindset that we had at this time at this place. So I'm
Mhm.
really excited, mostly just to document everything, even if
You
it's
know,
in
now that I think about it, you've always been that type of person, though. You're the person in our friend group that does document the most. You know, I remember you always just like recorded randomly when we were hanging out, or just like taking pictures randomly when
Mhm.
we were hanging out. Even like when we were like what 16, 18, you know, back in the wee old days.
Yes.
But like you were always that type of person.
Yeah. It's just nice to look back on because even now I like I still get the feels when I watch like old clips. I think we
Hmm.
all do, and I think it's just I think it's nice to look back and remember our youth because that's honestly when we get old and wrinkly, that's all we're gonna have. It's like our memories and our gold plated toilet seats.
Do you still remember the first time we met? It was such like a weird, like a meeting. Like I never expected to meet you there at that
Yes,
place.
it was all about chasing girls. That's what led me to you, Savannah.
I didn't even want. So, should we talk about how we met? Is that okay? Just
Yeah,
talk
I think
about it in
that's
the
fine.
podcast. Okay, so it's basically. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I
We
was
don't
hanging
maybe
out.
don't we probably don't want to mention names though.
Okay, so it's like I was hanging out with a friend, you know, Tinsai, the guy that we mentioned earlier,
Yes.
and I was really close with Tinsai. I think I've been hanging out with him for like a few months or so, but at that time period, I think it was a high school dance, and Tinsai had a crush on this girl, so we were going to like that girl's friend's house to kind of get ready for the dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even want to go to the dance. I was like, oh, screw it. I guess Tinsai's going, and he convinced me to go. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'll go too. And then we show up at the girl's house, and we see Seb there, and we've never seen Seb before. And
Yes.
it was just like me and Tinsai. We felt odd because we didn't really know much people there, so it was just like me and him hanging out. But then it was like Seb started to hang out with us, and then like we started talking a little bit. We found that Seb was a super cool guy. So like after the dance, we actually went over to Seb's house and just like spent the night there. We slept over there, and I think that's when we like really started like getting into like this is a cool guy. I think we could hang out with each other. So I think that's how we first met.
Yeah. You guys were definitely the first. It's very, very seldom where I meet people on the first day that I invite them over to sleep at my house.
I
But
know that's what it was so weird too, and we thought it was weird too. It's like we just met this guy, but you know what? He seems pretty cool, so let's go over.
yeah, and unfortunately, I think when you guys woke up, you guys got a ticket. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we got
think
a
it's
ticket for parking on the wrong side of the street during winter.
yeah the winter ordinance, and there wasn't any
Hmm.
snow. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it's all coincidence, But I think each of us had to put in the work in order to make this friendship stay the way, like last as long as it has so far. You know,
Hmm.
it's if any one of us, gave stopped putting in the effort, I think we would have fell off eventually. But our bonds have been able to grow, and it's because we fostered it. You know what I mean? We put in the work, and we enjoy each other's company, and we like hanging out with each other. And sometimes I do think that our friendships is very the friendships like ours are few and far between. Um, you know,
Hmm.
every time that Tinsai's mutual friends or Tinsai talks about our friendships and how he kind of brags about us to his other acquaintances. I think um,
Hmm.
it's like
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if we are really that special, but then I think about it, I'm like, huh, yeah, there really isn't. There really isn't any other friend group kind of like ours, or like I can't make friends as easily as we did, or
yeah.
they just don't
I think
click.
that's the big thing. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like the way that we just clicked so fast, so soon. It's just like, I don't think you really see that anymore, especially after this pandemic. Like, I don't even know, like, if
Hmm.
people are going to be like, comfortable with other people coming over to their house,
Yeah,
after, so soon after like meeting them, just because of like, safety and health concerns now. But it
right.
was just like, it was a spur of the moment thing that kind of just happened. And, we all kind of just went along with it. There was like, no one like second guessing or like maybe I don't want to do this or anything. It was just like it just happened. It was natural.
Right. I think all of our personalities are like that. We all like to go with the flow.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so.
yeah, and I think that's how it happened. But dude, you're right. I don't know. Like, I think COVID's gonna like scar like relationship building for like the next 5 years. Like maybe the next generation kids, they won't know anything about it. So then and then they'll be able to interact like normal. But this might leave a scar on us, like worse than I would think SARS did. But man,
but it's kind of interesting to see, like, that's where we met, and here we are now. Like, we're like living in different places across the country. We're still trying to keep in touch. So it's really cool to see, like, how far we've come, how far we've grown. And yeah, you're right. Like, we'll probably watch this podcast in like 5 years and probably like laugh at it, or like just see like how far we've grown in the past 5 years.
Yeah,
it'd be cool.
We'll do an anniversary podcast and we'll pull everybody together.
We should 10-year anniversary. Get Tinside, get Alex.
I mean, it's coming up. It's coming up. I think has it. I think we met in like the fall of 2012. That was my first year at that school. So
no, we knew each other before that.
Well, you knew Tinside before that, maybe. I didn't meet you guys until fall of 2012, I think.
I think it's fall of 2011. Because fall of 2012, I graduated.
Oh. You mean summer of 2012?
Yeah, summer 2012, I graduated. I graduated May 2012. So it's definitely, we did not meet September 2012.
Yeah, you're right. It's 2011. So it's been, it's coming up. It's been a whole 9 years. So it'll be 10 years here this coming year.
Yep.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. 10 years? 10 years?
It doesn't feel like 10 years, does it?
No. That worries me, because recently I think the days and weeks have been going by faster. Like,
yeah, I feel it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's like, I'm just trying to, like, I'm so bored. I'm just trying to distract myself. So it's like, I do a good job of distracting myself, which just makes the day go by really, really fast. I look at the time. It's like, what the hell? It's time to go to bed already?
Yeah. And
it's just like, day after day. And like, it's already December 19th of 2020. Like, the year's almost over. And it doesn't even feel like that at all.
No. It's okay. That's why I think we just keep clinging back to this finance thing. Because then I think once we are able to buy back our own time, I'm hoping that time will start to go back to normal.
All right, so this is my last question I have for you. I feel like I'm asking too many questions. It's your podcast.
No, not at all. I love it.
So in the next 5 years, what do you hope to accomplish? What's something big you want to accomplish?
All right. The biggest thing, 5 years. Okay, it's 2020. Okay, so I'm at a point in my career-wise. I'm looking for like as much growth as possible. I've had kind of like I would say like a late bloomer start. So I'm looking to be, established at least, much further along in my career than I am now. Besides that, financially speaking, I think that I want to be in a place financially where I can be close, maybe in the next following 5 years after that, because I'm thinking like maybe not until like 2030, where I can be in a position where I can either like coast fire or even consider retiring early or looking for another position. So that's like 10 years down the road. But 5 years, I need to. I'm planning to reevaluate. I'm hoping to be much closer to my plans than I am now. I think right now I'm still at the earlier stages. Those are the two things. Third thing is I want to be closer back to family and to be closer with you guys. I want to go at least on like 2 or 3 trips with the boys within the next 5 years. At least 2 or 3. And by trips, I mean like more than just 3 days. You know what I mean? I want us to like if we were to go camping.
We're not going to Chicago anymore. We're traveling.
We're international.
Need to travel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, maybe that's a problem. It's because we're going too big, and not everybody can participate. Yeah, and maybe just the one-off 2 days should suffice. But I don't know. I feel like the more time we spend together and when we're off on our own makes it more fun.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to travel too. I definitely at least want to travel once internationally, just because we've never done it. I don't count
Yeah.
Canada. I don't count going to Toronto internationally. I want to go somewhere like Europe or Asia or like our Japan trip that we've always wanted to go on. I
Hmm.
want to try that at least once because we haven't tried something like that, and I just want to see how fun it is. And maybe it's not for us, but at least we've tried.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. And yeah, moving back home, I think living in Seattle is cool. It's nice here, but I think honestly, I do believe home is where family is. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and so my partner and we're the only ones that are out here. We don't have. She has a few friends. I don't have any of my own, and
Hmm.
yeah, and I think I do like the in Minnesota more environment wise. It's the more I spend here in Washington, the more I learn that I do like the climate, but I like the people more in Minnesota.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
that next 5 years, we'll see though. We'll see how it goes. How about you? I mean, do you have any big plans by 2025?
Uh, I don't know actually. I asked you this question, but I didn't think you were gonna ask me it back.
Back at you, son.
Let's see. I think this past year I've gotten a lot closer to my family than I have ever have been.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to maintain that relationship, or maybe even get closer. Um, Career wise, I did make a lot of career moves, career jumps this past year. I'm not completely happy at the role that I am on currently. I was more happier in my previous role. So I'm kind of seeing like, maybe moving up the ladder just isn't my thing. Maybe I would rather spend my time working a job that I enjoy rather than just chasing the money or chasing like, the ladder, the prestige.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something I got to get figured out. I want to see where I can go for my career, whether it's going down, going up, completely shifting to a new. Since I've been working in healthcare my entire time after I've graduated, I could try something in a different industry. So there's definitely a lot of growth for my career that I see in the next 5 years.
Mhm.
Financials wise, I definitely have like a limit that I've set for myself, or like a goal I've set for myself. I would definitely want to hit like 250K in like my investment portfolio, just because I feel like that's a really good start into like dividend investment where like I can kind of just live passively off the income that I'm generating yearly.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to hit that in the next 5 years, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Family, finance, career.
Hmm.
Anything else we want to mention?
Oh yeah, definitely traveling. I,
Oh
I
yeah,
definitely
traveling.
want
Yeah.
to go. I want to go to Japan, 100%. I definitely, because we've all been talking about it, not just me and you. Like literally everyone in our friend groups has been talking about going at least once.
Um,
So I want to experience that.
you want to come learn Japanese with me for 3 months? I
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. It's nothing.
Hmm. Or you could be our,
Tour guide.
yeah, you could be our tour
Dude,
guide.
come. I kind of do want like a student life again, just for a very short amount of time, not for like an extensive. Like I don't want to go do like a graduate degree, like pursue a graduate program or anything, but just to have like to be. Yeah, to be like in a school setting, in a college setting again, and not have to think about
Hmm.
anything besides school. But my only obstacle to achieving that would be like uh, income, right? Because I don't want to be a
Hmm.
broke college student again. That's different. I want to be a
Uh,
rich college student this time. But yeah, dude, like we could be students. We could be students for 3 months together, and then we could explore, and then we could invite all the boys over to Japan. We'll be the tour guides.
Bro, could you imagine like if I spoke fluent Japanese? Do you know how weird that would look if like
100%.
me as a brown Indian male in Japan speaking fluent Japanese?
Yeah, I mean that would be sick though. You know what I mean? Like that's another like even if you like
But
you spoke it and then like you come back and then you didn't have it anymore. At one point, I think you could pick it back up. At any point.
what are you thinking of when you say student? Like, are you thinking of like actually like going to Japan and learning there, or just like learning like at a university, or like just learning by yourself here, like in
Uh,
America?
okay, so I've had the experience. I've had the the opportunity to go study abroad. I'm converted. It has to be study abroad. Like,
Study.
yeah, study there, because the amount, if you're dedicated, and all right, I think I'm personally, I'm just gonna I guess say that, yeah, say that I am a weeb and that I do watch a lot of anime. But I think that with the amount of anime or the Japanese I've heard through anime and the amount of dedication that I'm willing to put into learning the language, I think I could pick it up in 3 months. I'm almost positive. Is all I would need is like a helping hand to help guide me through. I guess just the fear of speaking in public. But I've already had that experience before, just with another language, and I'm not too afraid. But I do think the amount of how fast you learn and how much you can learn is definitely much better when you're in that setting, in that environment, right? If you're going to school every day for, I think it's like a 20-hour program, like 4 hours a day, right? Doing intensive Japanese. And then you're also spending the rest of your time in a country where everybody only speaks Japanese. Like you're going to be in 3 months, you're going to know how to speak it.
Right. So how about this? I said I want to hit 250K in 5 years.
Yeah.
If I hit 250K sooner than that, I'm down. If I hit it in like 4 years and like 9 months, shit, I'll spend the last 3 months in Japan learning Japanese.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good time. Yeah, 5 years I think is a relatively reasonable time horizon to figure out if we could do this or not. And we're still young enough to do it for 3 months, come back and figure out something later if we end up quitting our jobs and not doing anything. But yeah,
it would be really interesting though. Like I've never thought about the idea. Like I've always thought about the idea of like visiting Japan. I've never thought about like living in Japan. I mean living as in like staying for an extended period of time.
Have you done that anywhere besides India? Lived it extensively anywhere?
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting because when I don't think I've lived outside anywhere else besides the U.S. either. I mean, I've went to Vietnam and you went to India for like maybe a month, 2, right?
Like my longest periods was like 3 months. It's like the whole summer between like elementary school and like one grade and another.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also was born there. I lived there for 6 years before I moved here, so I have a slightly different background than you do. I think you were born here, right? You were born in America.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, I guess you growing up there, it was much more familiar to you as well. So so 3 months, probably not too much compared to the early childhood that you spent there. But yeah, I think when you live in a different country entirely, I think it does open up like broader perspectives. Like you get to primarily the biggest thing for me was like being able to meet so many different people from so many different walks of life at once. There are friends that they're making from like the Netherlands or Norway, and like people from all over the U.S. Like from Texas, from like Massachusetts. And I'm like, dude, who like if we just stayed where we were, like we would never have met. If I just stayed where I was, I would never have met any of these people. And some of them I still keep in contact with, and they're like really really cool. And just being in that place where you're in an international school with like other peers, like gives you that opportunity. And I think that's one of the other biggest reasons why people should go study abroad or live somewhere else, but not live somewhere else just by yourself though, Samantha. I think that's different. Just moving, like picking up everything and moving there. There's no foundational support. It's very hard to survive. Right. But if you go there in a school setting, they kind of provide friends for you. That's the way I see it.
Right. It's easier. It's less pressure.
Yeah, and it's not permanent. It's not permanent. Everybody knows that, I think, and that's why like the friends by proximity thing kind of happens. But some of the relationships you build can be very real, depending on how much you put into it. But yeah, let's 250K.
All right, remind me 5 years.
All right, at remind Samantha. Hey Google, remind me in 5 years to just kidding. But yeah, I don't want to keep too much more of your time, and I think we've already gone over. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Samantha. Do you have anything you want to plug? You want to let the world what's going on in your life? Or like anything you want to share? where they can
Nothing
find you?
really. I mean, I'm really not on social media, so it might be really hard. I mean, if you want to find me, you can always reach out to Seb, and he could probably hook
Yeah.
you up with like my Facebook or Messenger account. I don't really
Don't
have
look for
much.
him.
I don't really have much like going as far as like social media wise. But yeah, I just want to say it was really fun. You know, just having like a dedicated time, just have a conversation. You know, like an hour and a half conversation. It was super fun, and would love to do it again. Maybe in 5 years we could have the anniversary, or maybe even next year we can have the 10-year anniversary. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm down to do that. That's like, dude, it's just gonna be like 6 months from now. We'll just do it early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks for having me on.
yeah,
Thanks for having me on. It was super fun. Yeah, it was just super fun, like picking your brain on ideas and things that you've been going through after you moved to Seattle.
yeah. Thank you, Samantha. You're welcome back anytime.